Well, here we go again on my YouTube channel. Now this is going to be a little different. A lot of people ask me whether I paint with oils, and the answer to that is very rarely. But I was looking through my paints this afternoon and I thought, I don't know, I think I fancy an oil this afternoon. Very hot in here. It would have to be pure watercolour. Acrylic would dry a bit too quick, I think. So I thought I'd run you through this scene. I'm going to film it slightly different. It's simply the bridge near the museum, the lovely thatched cottage turned into a museum at Flatford Mill. And there is a boat in the middle distance. Well, I'm going to pull that a little further, a little closer. So it's all going to be about the three figures in the boat, but there are also some figures that are actually standing on the bridge. It looks on the face of it quite a simple subject, but that remains to be seen. Okay then, I'm going to lead you through the a very quick, if I can, rendition of the subject in oil paints. When I paint with oils, it's not a clean business for me, but there you go. That's my three colours and white. I've got my white, I have Prussian blue, I have vermilion red, and I've got cadmium yellow. And those are the only three colours. More importantly, the reason there's only three colours is because I haven't used got loads of colours in there, but haven't used the colours lately. And the problem is all the lids have dried tight on, and you just want hot water really. But those three came off in my hand, so those are the three colours I'm going to use. So that's quite as simple as that really. Now I'm going to treat it as if I'm sort of on site, so it's almost a plein air, but I'm in my studio. It's not a bad thing to do this if you're looking for an exercise, and and I've got loads and loads of torn up old newspaper that I use. I need loads of it really, to wipe the brushes, clean the brushes. And of course I have terps within my my mixing tray there. Two little bottles, one for cleaning and one for applying the colour. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use it's virtually a watercolour brush really, but I'm going to use that for drawing. And the first thing I'm going to do is take some paint, and if I bring that round in front, you should be able to see roughly what I'm doing. Let me just come out a little bit there, like that. Should be able to just see. Let me just adjust this so you can get an idea of exactly what try and mix near where the colour is. Right, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually put it in a very, very light sort of red with a touch of yellow. So I've got very, very light sort of orange really. And first thing I need, just as if I'm sort of I'm going to put the boat in first, and if you notice, I'm not actually taking too much heed in the boat itself. It's and I'm going to have it pointing into the picture, so that the bow is going to be a bit more like that, so it's pointing, toning round, so a bit more terps required. So front of the boat comes round, take off that little bit, and tucks around and tucks under. Then we have the side of the boat there. There we are. So that's roughly where the boat is going to be positioned. Just keep adding terps, a little bit more white, a bit more yellow in there. Now the bridge is going to be quite high. So we've got a cross section there where it's quite straight. We have a section down there that heads down towards the bank and a section down there. So that's looking quite good. Going to have a pillar there and a pillar there. Yeah, good. Maybe, and then I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. These will all be adjusted when I paint. It's a good thing about oils, well, even watercolours really. You know, you can make adjustments as you're working, but it's just so as I know roughly where the positioning of some things are really. You know, another post there, and then there's the railings like that, and post there, posts in the background that very dark like that, and I've got another one there. If you notice, because we're slightly to the left, the difference between those two, the back post and the foreground post, or the post in the gap is different because the perspective is different. That is all there is to that. There is one more post, but I'm not going to put that in purely because it doesn't really help the overall composition. And I'm bringing the water up a little bit higher, just like that, just so the boat is not directly underneath the bridge. Good, that's fine, I think. And pretty much a little bit of greenery there, a little bit of greenery there, and good. I think that's possibly the start of the subject. Okay, well next will be the greenery at the back. So a little bit of terps, and obviously for greens you need quite simply a blue, and I'm putting it with that red, and a green, and that will give me my blue. I'm using a more sort of bit more blue in the green and a little bit of red just to give that a bit more depth. And we're just blocking in. Okay, now this is something that putting in 1 or 2 little light patches here and there. This is the sort of thing I would do if I was creating an impression of this on site, out in the out of the open. Bit of red in there now, just to give that green bit of punch, just to show that we've got a little bit of greenery there. I would recommend, if you're new to oils, well, what I've found really, although I'm not an expert in oils by any means, but I would say don't go too thick too early. Notice I'm using quite a lot of terps, purely because I need to get detail on afterwards. Well, hinting at detail really. It's not going to be any detail whatsoever really as far as it goes, but we've just got to give a feeling that we do have we do actually have see, when you put the dark in, you get the variety of branches. You know, there's just a branch coming there, a little branch coming there. There we go. Now we'll put some lighter stuff in coming in this side. Really the sun is behind me on this one, but it's got a nice bit of green there. There's an overhanging branch. Notice how I'm not giving too much detail. I'm not going too thick either at this stage, and I'm putting in all the light areas either side so we can pull the eye into the picture. See the way I'm pulling the eye in, whereas if there's a sort of a tree overhanging there, some trees in the distance and another tree here, and as I come further forward I'm actually adding a little bit more yellow. It gives a lovely intensity to the whole thing. Maybe a little bit of sparkle up there would be nice. There we go. Don't do the same each side too much. Just to give a suggestion. That's all I'm doing. And then as I come down, I don't want to lose the depth of colour, adding a bit more yellow to that, a little bit more blue, trying to deepen up the colour again. And I'm coming down as far as the top rail of the bridge, or just above it actually. There you go. Now let's put that deep dark bluey colour in there. It's a rich green, but it's a distant green, I would say. But then all of a sudden we hit it with a bit of light green as it goes away. There we go. And that is where that railings sort of finish, really. You know, just as I always say, whether it's oils, watercolour, just have a bit of fun with the colour. Try and really loosen the overall effect. Now I'm bringing it down where the posts are. I'm going to use a smaller brush now. Bit of fencing there. There we go. Right, bit of terps. Clean the brush off. Always make certain you clean the paint off. Not quite so bad till the end of the day, really, with oils. But if they were to be acrylics, then you would need some other colour. Okay, so that's basically that in. Now I'm going to use a softer brush now, because I want to pick up where the posts are. There's one there on the bridge, one there, blend it, one there, one there. Get the tops. Main thing is get the tops fairly relevant to where they are. We're going to go in obviously with some white or light, not necessarily white, but light. Then we can do a bit more blue in this, just because I'm producing this bit here. There we are. Look at that. Look at how lovely and dark that is in that centre area. There's a post there, and I can introduce a bit of that there. I don't want to introduce too much. And as you rub over the paint you've just got, you'll find you'll drag some of that paint down as well. So in the end it blends itself, really. A little bit up there. There you go. Mustn't be too fussy. Now I'm telling myself this because if I don't, I get too fussy. So trying to explain to you actually does me the world of good in many ways, because I can then adjust my own, you know, because I know what should be done, but unless I tell myself, you tend to get all lapped up in your own way of doing things, and it doesn't quite come off like that. Okay, so there, 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 and the same there, 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 and here is a picket fence, and that will be revealed when I come to put in the bank greenery there. Yeah, and there is an area there, 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 there. Three or four railings. As I say, suggestion. I'm on site. Think you're on site. Think you're going to need, you know, you haven't got any amount of time to do this. So you'll need to get cracking, as it were. Now behind there, underneath, is quite a what I'd call a bit of sunlight on the green in that area. So we're going to pick up quite a nice bit of yellow there. And I'm limited with colours, but I can adjust those very shortly. Now that boat I'm going to take down a little bit in a moment. There we go, so it's not as high as that. And then that runs across there. That's good. Now we go a little bit darker now. A little bit darker there. And obviously the bank finishes along the bank edge there. And then we go very dark with a bit of red for the area there. It also cuts across there. There we go. And once we get this in, a bit more, put a little bit more terps with that, just let the oil run a little. I'm doing this totally freehand. Get to about there, and then we have, I'll show you in a second what we have there. And I'm actually going to use a bit of license by bringing a little bit of this darker colour against the water's edge there. Good, then we have a bit more red there with some white. Gives me a grey, that's it, with a bit of red, because there is a jetty where you get onto the boats there, and that extends to there. And that's then your water line. That's under the bridge. Look at that, fantastic. You know, it's not a bad, sort of medium to painting, to be fair, although I would say watercolours to me come up a lot quicker, but it's still looking quite good. Some lovely old bushes there that overhang, varying bits and pieces going on there. A bit more yellow dropped in just. And notice how I've taken the colour away by adding red to the green and picking up just a little bit of red there, like that. And then all of a sudden, clean the brush, just wipe it off onto paper. Then you pick up the yellow, a bit more, and a bit of red, and then all of a sudden, perhaps a touch of blue, or even a bit of white, be nice. Pick up the bank and drop a bit of that into that, there, like that. Good. So that really is the start of this lovely little oil study of the bridge at Flatford Mill. Okay, well, I've moved on a little, but what I'm doing now is just flicking in these cross sections. And if you notice, I'm not painting everything in. I'm leaving even the white of the prep canvas underneath. So the top is quite distinct. Notice how I'm doing that with the colour, trying to get the top in first. But other than that, the cross sections are rather obscure, really. They are there amongst the greens, but this is the way you give an impression. It's far better to give an impression of the subject than actually paint everything in. Good, so that's really basically the bridge. Maybe the bottom half of that bridge is in light, but most of that is in shadow. Good, not going to do the water at this stage, or shall I? Right, tell you what I'm going to do. For the water, I'm going to put a very, very weak green, light green. So I've got some green on the palette, and it's quite a washy green that I've got. So I'm going to put that to show where the water finishes, and those areas again there, because most of it will be green. There we are, look at that. And this just gives me a little idea of where the water finishes. If you use green for water, you know, can't really go too far wrong. Look at that. Just spread that in now, and you'd be surprised how, I know it's all about tones. I mean, you know, anybody that paints regularly understands tone and how much tone you need to give a subject, but basically, let's just paint that down there. That's right, there we are, and just make that as free as possible. It may not be the complete finish of the water, in fact by far it isn't, but it's a good start anyway. Now all the brushes I've used I'm going to squeeze out into my paper so that they don't dry with too much paint on there, and that's going to be squeezed out as well. Good, so let's see. Yeah, I think you can see exactly what I'm trying to do there. Good. Now I'm going to paint in with this nice sort of, it's quite a soft brush actually. I think you can see that. Quite a soft sort of brush. It's an oil painter's brush, but it's not a bristle. It's quite a soft brush. Now I'm going to paint in the shadows. Now this is where it gets really interesting. We use Prussian blue and vermilion, and I'm you have to see yours because they tend to shine. There we are. And I'm using more blue than vermilion, but not too much. Right, now this will be all in shadow, so you won't be able to see where the post is until you get down near the waterline. Now this one, and it's very, very dark under there. It's dark under there because there's a bit that sticks out, and then it comes back. So these are vital little areas, so you can see a little something going on there. It's always best to try and show up. See, there's a little area there, and then it tucks back down the post. And that's looking good, and of course underneath there is dark, only as far as that bit that sticks out. It's actually that piece there and there that I'm trying to show, and that's the same, so it finishes where that sticks out, and then we have another area, another area there that sticks out, and then that slopes down, and then we have that coming down there like that, and that comes through and that meets that. There we are. Yep. Then this obviously is just like that one, it's in complete shadow, so we bring the area across there, and then this post is in complete shadow again, but it's darker than the background, unlike that one, which is all very similar. I could have changed the tone of that, but decided probably I wouldn't. Now I'm going to put a little bit of shadow that isn't necessarily there, but I just feel that it needs it down the back edge of those posts, and you'll probably see why later, hopefully. Certainly the brush is pointed correctly. So I've just changed the light just a touch on there, and I'm going to put some underneath, and I do like using a flat brush for this sort of thing. See the way I'm creating a little bit of shadow underneath? Just squeeze that brush flat a little bit more because it was a little too thick. Here we go. But let's not get too fussed about individual detail. By putting those simple lines in, you indicate it's definitely railings. And that, and of course, that railing casts a shadow there, 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 there. So I'm lengthening that shadow now to suggest it's over onto the posts, like that. And underneath that, underneath that. Oh, and of course it goes right up to the top, doesn't it? We mustn't forget about the top where we can see it. There. That's it. There you go. And of course, we've got an area down there, and that will also extend onto the posts. And then this picket fence will have some uprights, and it has one cross section with a post there and a post there. There we are. Lovely. Gives that lovely, really beautiful effect of sunlight, really, you know. Good, good, good. Now we've just got a bit more there, bit more there, bit more there. Just bring that over just a touch. Brilliant. Perfect. And then this will be completely in shadow because it's underneath the bridge itself, and that will obviously then reflect into the water. Good. That's pretty much as I would have expected. I'm actually going to show a little bit of shadow down the back edge of these two posts. It's not actually there, but I'm going to put it in anyway. That all helps to give them a bit of depth. There we go. See more of the thickness of that than you can that because it's slightly round. Good. Okay, so that is the next stage. Well, that's basically as far as I've got. that's the picture. This is my sketch of that picture. Going to hone in a little bit closer now, so that hopefully you can see a little bit more of the painting of this lovely boat. Now it's quite low here, so we're going to go down and underneath. This is the shadow area of the stern. You won't see so much that side, right? But you will see considerable amount this side, where it tucks out and then overhangs a touch and then comes down. This is the shadow part of the boat. Now boats must always sit flat. They never actually, well, they don't. They never, sorry, just a bit more red in this now. They always sit flat in the water. And you can just now see where that shadow casts a lip onto that. Got a bit more green to put around. I'm going to lower the frontage there. And then we have the shadow line underneath the overhang of that boat, like that. That's good. It's good. Now, the figures. Squeeze all the paint out of the brushes, or the brush. Now I'm going to put a figure, so the head is going to be like a dark brown. Not using brown, just using red, blue, touch of yellow. So we're going to have the figure sitting at the stern with dark hair, like that. That's the dark hair. Then, squeezing, we have a very light coloured hat. So plenty of water in this mix. Now, for like a sun hat really. Quite a warm day, I think. There we go. And then, potentially white, but I'm using more of a red. Because I like to have this as my main subject. You know, my main, so a bit more red in that. There we go. And the figure sits neatly in to that back of that boat there, like that. Now there is another small figure, and this one's going to be light blue, just to ring the changes. A bit more terps in the mix, a bit more Prussian blue, a bit more terps. Just check that it runs. And this is a small child leaning, looking out of the boat, like that. So the head of the child needs to be looking away, and there is sort of like what I'd class as a touch of sort of blondness to the hair. So let's give that a blonde sort of colour on the hair, like that. Then we're going to have a little bit of flesh colour, so red and yellow, bit of blue in there. So the red and yellow with some white will give us hopefully a fleshy looking colour. There we go. And a little touch there, and this there and there, leaning up to there. Brilliant. Look at that. Quite simple, these figures, to be quite honest. Then there is another figure which is quite a white, quite a light sort of red face that sits a bit more there. There we go. There, like that. And this t-shirt has got to be quite quite, well, almost white really. Just got a little tint of colour, but basically it's white really. And this figure has the oars, so the arms come out and they sit in the boat like that. Need shadow on there, and then the face, we pick up this nice sort of warm colour for the face. Like that. Brilliant. Look at that. Speck of white. Brilliant, look at that. Modelling these faces can be quite interesting. It's quite an interesting study. And then, while I've got the bit more of this green still yet to turn, I'm going to put in need to shape my boat here, because pick up the edge of the water there like that, and that boat will need to come down to there. That's it. There we are, a bit more yellow now, and that will give me my lighter sort of green for the back of the boat there. And the head probably will come over into that, and that will then come down like that. There you go, look at that. And even round that, the head of that figure, like that. Quite simply sorting out a bit of background there. There you go. Look at that. It's absolutely a bit darker around that head of that figure, darker around there. Good. So that's the bow of the boat. A little bit more detail to go in there, but basically, if you notice, it's pretty much filled in quite nicely. Okay, well that is the image that I'm trying to depict. I've not put any figures yet on the bridge. May just hint at those shortly, but I'm still working really on the bridge and the figures themselves in the boat really. Not too much more to do. You know, don't want to spend too long on this. This is a nice study, but it is only a study, so I'm quite happy to just give an impression of everything. Really, the next area probably will be the figures that actually overlook or stand on the bridge itself. So I need plenty of white for this. Let's put this little chappie in here. He's overlooking, and he's got to leave a gap where he's standing. The arms are out, and just roughly a gap where he's standing, just like that. That's all that's really required. The other figure is more or less here, slightly different sort of angle, like that. And then this figure is very similar, looking the other way, like that. And this is where I just nip up that shadow on there. Now all they need now is heads really, a bit more detail, but I'm going to get in with quite a nice brown for the head, a bit of yellow gone in there just to give it a nice... Highlights will go in shortly, but let's just pick up that figure. The other figure has got a red, or one figure's got quite a dark blue cap. Right, now this one has got a dark red. Nip the paint out, pick up a bit of red paint, and this figure has got a cap like that. That's it. It's highlights, you see, and when you put the highlights in, you would be surprised what you come up with. Well, I'm hoping anyway. And then of course bit of blue perhaps for the legs of that figure, and the legs of that figure there like that. Then highlight. So all we do, white paint, might as well be white, because it will denote where the figure is looking to, whether they've got a cap or a hat on, and also squeeze the paint out. We're looking for a bit of yellowy red for the arms. A bit of white in that. There we are. And that is an impression of those figures that actually stand on the across the river there on the bridge. There we are, look at that. Right, good. Okay, well, it's water time, but before I do so, get that into focus. Before I do so, I'm going to put some white highlights on the bridge. So that means that area there, like that. This area here, down there and down there, just to give them a bit more substance. There's also a nice bit of highlight on top of the bridge there. And those posts come down. So let's pick up some more white and down, and they need to stand upright. Notice they're not standing perfectly upright. It's the way I'm painting really, but of course you don't moan about being uncomfortable when you're painting out of doors, so why should you when you're in the studio? You know, do you want to be comfortable or do you want to paint? Well, I like to paint myself, and if that means being uncomfortable for an hour, so be it. There we are, look at that. Just line that off like that into that shadow area, and that gives it a bit of a mystical feel. Don't know why that works, but to me it does. Good, okay. Right, bit of red now with white for the back of the boat there, just to give that a little bit more punch. That's going to have white around there, but that under the arm of the figure is going to be, that's going to be light, which it is, like that. That water will come round, good. And oh, white, of course. White brush, paint off the brush, straight into the white, with a bit of red on the brush, which is handy because there's just a small white rim around the top edge there, down the edge there. Let's get that paint running. And top edge there. Yeah, brilliant. Look at that. Good. So that is that. Now we're looking at the water. And then the final shadows. And I think we're probably there, really. You know, just a bit of freshening up to be done. But to me, it's not a bad little study, actually. Right, the water, well, quite simple. Darker paint for the shadows, which is the reflection in the water. And I'm going to paint straight down like that. Not going to be quite as dark as the bridge itself. There we go. And then of course we have the upright that's in shadow. That is completely in shadow there. That is also the upright, which will reflect in the water. It finishes about there. Make certain that it finishes level in the water. So I'm pulling the brush across as well as down. That's it. And that gives that sense of water reflection under the bridge, around that figure there. And of course, sharpening up that little area there, which we won't know where the water finishes and the bridge begins, because I'm blending them all together. Gives a nice shimmer. And we're going to come down far enough with these because they are quite, you will be able to see a little bit of the under reflection underneath, so we will need to draw in a misty feel in that area there, like that. There as well. Oh no, hang on, that's the shadow. That's okay, it's all right, no problems at all. Right, there you go. I'll put the lighter in very shortly. Okay, then we're looking at picking up a little bit of blue with some white, because on the photograph you can see a touch of the reflection of the sky, which I'm not that convinced about, but always a good idea to put that in if you can. I'm going to put in the reflection of the boat like that. I'll show you a bit more of the attention of that shortly. And of course the overhanging greenery, that's also reflected like that. But overall the water is actually quite dark, so we're going for it. And why shouldn't we? You know, why shouldn't we go for a dark? Let's put a bit of yellow in there. But other than that, it's pretty dark blue, really. That gives us the opportunity then later on to put in some highlights. Whoops, there's a highlight, look. That came in off the brush. Isn't that fantastic? You know, I love taking a chance with this water, these water businesses, because they do, yeah, that's looking quite good. And then we're just going to take some red with a little bit of white, quite a lot of white actually, because we're going to pick up the reflection of the bow of that boat. There, like that. Out to there. Okay. And then the really dark blue with a bit of red for the reflection at the sides that just tuck under and come round. Now this has got to be done, I think I can do it with the point of this brush. A little bit shaky, but should work. There we go. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a hint of the figures in this colour to start with. Okay. I won't say a great deal of those figures, but you will say a little. Good. Now, taking a smaller brush again, white paint, bit of blue in there for the reflection, a bit more white in there. It's got to be, to show a bit of movement, so it mustn't be completely. That's it, and a bit more white because it's that bank there you can actually see. That's it, and the right bit of movement there, the right bit of movement there. Okay, then you will see a little bit of extra movement from the light of those figures there. That's good. Right, now we then get some movement from the bridge itself, but you don't start painting in all of the overhanging areas. What you do, don't put any uprights, you just keep sweeping across like that. A little bit down on that, pull that in. And all of a sudden you get that lovely watery effect. And that is the key to the shimmer on a water. Always allow most of the rippling to come into the foreground. A little bit in the distance there, I quite like that. That seems to have worked quite well. And a bit of shadow work now for the figures on the boat, because there's still a little bit of shadow work to go on there. So this is quite dark, and that, see if that points up. Okay, that would be under the rim of the hat there, like that, just to show a hat. You'd also got a bit under the arms there and there, also there where the arms come out, a bit to the left of the head there, under the chin and down that under that arm there. That's good. We've got to block out the side of this boat there, so we use this same colour just to pick up the edge of that boat. That's it. And then we can go back in with a light just to show where the boat slips away there. Good. Now we clean the brush, we put in the oars. Now this is going to be interesting. As always, very interesting subjects. And the oars will come, got to meet the water, so they come down and then they fill out a bit bigger, but they lay flat on the water. And this one would probably actually got rid of the little figure, little child, so not too sure. I can always put that child in later. Right, and then of course we've got a little bit of red into that, because oars do tend to have that reddy feel. Nice bit of light now. Brilliant. Pick up a little bit of colour. I want a little bit just to thin the oars out a bit in the water. They're not quite as bulky. There we are. And then of course there is a little bit of, we'll have a little bit of reflection, shall we? A little bit of rippling from the water at that point. And then we'll have a little bit of rippling there for the back of the boat. Then we'll have a little bit of rippling for the figure there. And then we'll have a little bit of rippling for the darker hat. And that figure there. There we are. And of course where that boat sits in the water need to just be, just to show a little bit more of where that boat sits in the water, really, like that. And then we are getting there. I can assure you we're getting there. I just like to lose everything behind those figures, and this sort of colour does help to do that. You can begin to line around the figures then and pick up where the oars come and where the, there we are, that's more like it. Brilliant. And of course underneath we can go really dark because the oars will have a shadow. If I can go dark, that means blue and red, bit of water, blue and red. Hinting at that. There we go. Jolly good. And then it'll be a rippling where the oars have been in the water to indicate a little bit of rough water where the oars have been. Looking very good to me. It's the sort of thing that I would have sort of suggested would be the ideal thing for those oars. Okay, just going to analyse and see what I've done. Okay, well I'm going to just tidy up some little bits and bobs that I think require it. There. Just softening those a little bit. There, like that. I've given them a little bit of red. Now I'm just overstating that with some white, just to take off the stark feeling of that. Just to blend that in, just like that, just to soften it a touch. That's what it's all about, softening and blending colours when you come to paint these sorts of subjects. Always a good thing to do. As I say, it's see that mystical stroke, it just gives that extra sense of depth, really. Now I'm just going to go in now with some very dark colour That's like a greeny, because I want to just make certain that these posts are not too wide, because in reality they're not that wide. So let's just make certain we thin them out, make them just a little bit more narrow, just purely by dropping in some of this darker colour up to them really, or down the top. There, like that. Don't want to lose the highlight. We want to lose a bit of the depth of them. Like that, like that. A little bit there next to the figure. I don't lose too much where the figure is really. But you know, you can get away with, as I always say, the more detail you have in one area, the more you need in another. So consequently, you can get away with an awful lot when you're painting. So you don't have to paint everything in. All of a sudden I've made those sort of posts a little bit more narrow really. Bring that down to there like that. Perfect. Good, that's looking good. Don't see a problem with that at all. Bit of paint now for the highlights on the post, there and there. Don't want to make those too big. See how these little highlights make every bit of difference. You can see the fence now there, imitating the fence detail. That's good. And pick up a bit of white now, just for highlight on the hat there, the figure's head, little figure there, shoulder there, top of the oars, a little bit of highlight there, tad of highlight there. We can pick up enough white, and I'll deliberately blur those oars purely to try and give an impression of movement really. Whether that's quite come off or not, I wouldn't like to say. And then all of a sudden we've got this dark green where we've got the overhang of that up into the light green, and a bit more dark green there, and a bit dark against that light area there. And we may have a bit of a bush just standing over, just to help coax in that that right hand side. Yeah, and same goes here really. Overhang there, there, 1 or 2 extra dark areas there. There we are. Good. And then we just use pure Prussian to give a shimmer on this water, just where those dark areas are. They come down into the water like that, and then they shimmer in the water like that. A bit more Prussian this side. Like that lovely little light area there, helps give an added attraction to the whole thing. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to really darken. Got to remember that the back of all that along the bridge is quite dark, so that's what I'm going to do now. Darken the lower part. So it's really dark there. There we go. See the way I'm just wiping that in nice and freely. Just try and flatten those. Don't want any uprights in there. That's it. Nice and dark there. Make certain that I've got no white board. And tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a dark bush coming over there in the background. I've just got some Prussian blue to use up really, which wow, I'm going to waste it, so let's just use it. So they say, use it or lose it. Well, I'm not going to lose it, so I'm going to use it. Nice bit coming over there like that, and that just helps show up that. And we've got just one or two little branches just hanging out there. All very impressionist, extremely impressionist. And then this is going to be quite dark because this is going to be, it's not going to be the same, it's not going to be overhanging the same, it has to be different, but it's a nice dark Prussian blue, purely Prussian blue on there. Because that's a bush. There's another little bit of Prussian bush there. I did notice. Well, that's an ivy affair, but just see how that dark shows up that light on the fence, on the railings. Without darks, you have no lights. That's why I've elected to go dark there, to show up that highlight there. Good. Well, overall, just want to just gently line that there with a little bit more continuity of colour. There we go, look at that. Then we clean the brush, put light blue on it, and then we just wipe that across there like that. And that just softens that. Then we get some white, plenty of white. We go straight in with the white, a little bit of that blue on it. We really need pure white. So let's, panic station's not got enough white. I don't know why I'm rushing, because oils, they don't dry, do they? I'm thinking I've got watercolour here, but I haven't. So I'm just stroking that in to highlight that. This will have the same, and that blue underneath just gives me the option to blend that through. Look at that, brilliant. And then I have now just to pick up the way that bridge reflects in the water. It does give me that option now to put a little bit of light reflection into that foreground. Too much? Just a little. And I think now, before I go too far, that will need signing. And I think I will sign it. It's just got to give that just a bit of aging. Just felt it wanted a bit of aging there. Just feel that needs goes across and then it goes down like that. That's better. That's more like it. Modelling, that's what they call it. It's modelling the colour. Now we take white and we go up like that. We go across and we go down. And that is Flatford Mill Bridge, very close to the museum. There we are, very close to the museum. Now I'm going to sign it. Anyone that knows Flatford Mill will know exactly where that is. Just going to sign it down in this bottom right hand corner. Colinsteedart in my normal signature. Always best to do it in the paint that you used. And that is all I'm going to do for that little study of that bridge near the museum at Flatford Mill. Well, there's my study of the bridge at Flatford Mill. Lovely old bridge with a boat just going underneath. That's what I was working to. That's my pretty much finished painting. I mean, you know, you keep playing with oils, but that is purely a study. Couldn't make it down there today, so I decided to do it in the studio. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, there'll be more of my paintings, mainly watercolours, but perhaps the odd oil here or two, or acrylics, on my YouTube channel, Colinsteedart, artist on YouTube. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. You can also see my latest works on my website, colinsteedart.com. And if you need to get in touch for any commissions or demonstrations, then email me on colinsteedart@aol.co.uk. Thank you for watching.